Hello everyone, I'm Tony Marfione and we're going to get an in-depth look at how Tony Marfione cooks a steak today. You know, we want to try to do something for you all that you could replicate back at home. You know, I have a couple different grills, everything from coal to wood fire and everything else, but today we're going to go ahead and use the Napoleon. It heats up rather quickly. It's a great grill. So the whole idea behind that is just making sure that you can get a really good hot grill going underneath whether it be embers or the actual gas. Today you're also going to learn a little bit about my likes and dislikes. You know, I've been cooking meat for all my life. I've had, you know, beef in every setting all over the world, and I've had some steaks that are great. I've had some pieces of meat that really suck. For this week's episode, of course, we went back to the New York butcher shop and had them cut us a prime New York strip. So you can get anything from choice all the way up to prime and then above. You know, you go to Wagyu or something along those lines. But the prime is going to be the best cut, best quality as far as I'm concerned. So not all meat is created equal, so definitely pay attention when you shop for your meats. I'm going to go ahead and pour myself a drink. I hope you don't mind. Cook responsibly and of course never dry. Cheers to that. We're going to go ahead and light up a cigar, and this one's called The Judge. My bro Sebastian Brengi from Borka Blades turned me onto these, and for the money you can't beat the smoke. So we're going to go ahead and get one of those lit. I'm going to show you how. You could use a cutter, you could use a punch, you could use whatever. I'm going to prefer to go ahead and use a punch on this particular size cigar for me. I'm going to go ahead and toast that front just a little bit. The whole idea is not to get it hot and burn around the edges, but if you've had one sitting inside the humidor, you can start to see the white side of the ash starting to take effect. Maybe add a little bit of air. I've seen people do that. Anyway. And we have that burning really nice. What a wonderful, wonderful cigar. Yes, I am a knife maker for 32 years, but I've been in the gun background for a good long bit. So we're going to just talk about a couple of iconic pieces that are out of my collection with kind of a neat story. But in any event, let's prepare to prep some meat. We'll get that rolling up to around 700 degrees is typically where I like to be before I start the first sear. But again, I mean, all grills are going to be different. You know, you're going to have to experiment. So depending, if it was a super hot day today, it's going to alter how I time my searing on my sides. The grill gets a lot hotter quicker. If it's super cold outside or your meat's super cold in the center, that could also. So experimentation, some of these guidelines I have, the cuts I have today are roughly about 1.5 inches thick. They're very, very uniform, got a nice layer of fat, and should cook relatively easy. A lot of what you're going to put off is going to kind of get seared off anyway, but this is how I do it. And again, I use the Lowry's garlic salt, which if somebody said, hey, you got the choice to pick one thing out of the cabinet, that's it, out of the hundreds that we have, it would definitely be this one, because as you noticed in some of my earlier episodes, it's one of my go-tos. We're also going to go ahead and use a little bit of the Lowry's garlic powder, and it's also cut with a little bit of parsley. Again, it's going to burn off the outside. You know, getting the outsides of the meat a little bit wet. Of course, I love the Pam extra virgin olive oil, and it works for me. We had these cut today at the New York butcher shop. They did a wonderful job. You know, it's really exciting to walk in there and see them using some of the Microtech kitchen knives. It's super exciting, actually. So, you know, we sharpen those and some of the other culinaries that they have down there, but it's really a pleasure to see them guys in action. Nothing better than having a hand-cut steak. So we have these cut for uniformity. You know, I chose to do 5 pieces tonight just to kind of show you that you can, you know, how you manage. Doing one steak is a little bit, you know, just less work, but doing 5, you got to take some things into consideration as you're cooking. So we're just going to go ahead and get these out of the packaging just really quick. Okay. While you're cooking, you're going to have a rest time, so you're going to have, you know, these cuts of meat 1.5 inches thick. I'm going to shoot for a medium rare tonight. With a nice little bit of a char on the outside if we can. So that's what we're going to start. So I'm going to start off by using a little bit of the olive oil spray just to coat those tops of the meat. Contrary to popular belief, before we started using Cerakote, what we used at Microtech was a product called moly resin. And that was something I used back in the very, very day to refinish guns and supplemented my income. So as you can see, my control on spraying this stuff comes from painting those guns. So just a little trivia, but that's what I used to do. Gunsmithing was part of my repertoire back in the day. You know, I did sheetrock and did gunsmithing for a lot of the shops back in Newport Richey, Florida. So that was a good thin film that we bought from a guy named John Norrell out of Tennessee. He's still around there somewhere. And there's so many wonderful, wonderful coatings, nano coatings, ceramics. That sort of stuff has really gone a tremendous way. And you know, even in the cooking side of the industry, I've seen so many different alloys. I've seen so many different finishes on knives. Even though I'm you know, when it comes to cooking, I'm a bit of a purist. You know, I don't like to have, you know, coated pans or any of that sort of nonsense. But, you know, the simpler the better for me. But on firearms or any of those type of outerwears that we'd use for diving or hunting or anything along those lines, those coatings make a really great bit of difference when you're out in the field, 100 billion%. We're gonna go ahead and add our spices, but we're also gonna coat that one side. The grill is up to temperature. This thing rocks very, very quickly. I had a great opportunity. I had a great opportunity to be invited on a hunt. It was Ray and I. It was last October, and it was on the Comanche lands. And the Comanche tribes invited us to go on an elk hunt, which I'd love to show you this piece. But I think second day that we were in there, you know, one of the tribal, you know, leaders was like, you guys are doing this wrong. He said, you're gonna wake up tomorrow, you're gonna come out, and we're gonna go ahead and purge you with cedar. Not only was it a blessing for your hunt for that day, for you to be blessed with this smoke or covered on your body, but what we found out also is the burning of cedar masks your scent. And sure enough, on that morning, I got probably one of the biggest bull freaking elks I've ever seen. He's upstairs in the library right now. Let's go ahead and we're gonna get ready to sear that side. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open this up. Again, be extremely careful when you open up your grill. Especially if you're using a coal fire or wood or any of that sort of things, even these here, you'll get a blast of heat that'll knock you in the face. I've burnt my arm, I've burnt all the hair on my face. You know, typically I know it sounds funny, I'll wear a set of sunglasses or even a set of safety glasses from work. You get something that pops up in your eye, it's gonna spoil your evening. You know, a little burn here is like a bee, one on the face I could live with, but you lose one in the eyeball, you know, you could be looking at a trip to the ER. So eye protection and making sure that as you open up an oven or a grill, don't stand directly in front of it. Coal fire or the wood could actually plume and blow up in your face just a little bit. So it'll smoke and then it'll ignite, and you could be losing all your facial hair and everything else. So what I'm going to do first, so I'm going to coat the area a little bit with the Pam olive oil. It helps prevent a little bit of sticking. So we're going to work on this side of the grill tonight. Just going to get a little bit. And again, that is blistering hot. And again, when you're even spraying stuff from a can, be extremely cautious. Do not set the cans next to the heat. Keep those off to the side. A lot of people ask me, they're like, what is your secret? Time in your sides. You know, so if you're cooking, you got to be very, very careful, because it's easy to get distracted and walk away, and you could ruin a good piece of meat, or it could catch fire in an instant. So we're going to get that ready. I'll just use my iPhone and I'll hit it, because what I'll do is I'll set what's called a lap. So not only is the char side important, but that lap time is going to be the time of rest, or the time that I use in between to char up the fat. You do it as a lap for a total combined time, okay? So that's important. I'd always err when you're cooking steaks to cook a little bit more towards the rear side. If it's a good cut of meat, it's going to be phenomenal, but could always go back on the grill if you're unsure. Once it's well done, you got a well done shoe leather piece of steak, and it tastes like shit. So let's just be honest about it. Cheers again. I'm gonna get these in my hand like so, and I'm gonna hit the start button. So that'll be my combined time. I'm gonna open it away from my face. I'm gonna start setting these in here. Super hot grill today, boys and girls. I'm gonna jump one over here real quick. All right, we're on 55 seconds of that meat. Of course, she's flaming up a little bit more than what I'd like right now, so I might move these. Yeah, that's good. Okay, minute 17 seconds. Okay. Ooh, that grill is hot. Very hot grill, boys and girls. 2 minutes, 42 seconds. I took them off a little early because it was a little hotter. Again, you got to base that time on what you think your grill's doing. And this one is exceptionally hot. You know, to get a good sear, that's the way to do it for me. Wearing a glove, super helpful. I'm gonna go ahead and coat these with olive oil. Now they're gonna rest. 20-minute rest times on these particular meats right here because of the thickness. I've been in the knife industry now for a little over 32 years, and I'm still learning about it extremely all the time, and every day we're learning something new. But just a little bit of history on where I came from. You know, originally born in Dunedin, Florida, lived in Newport Richey. My mother's side was Rochester, New York, which you've seen in previous issues, and just had an infatuation with the firearm side. So even as a young kid, you know, I couldn't buy whatever I needed, but my mom always supported my hobby with the knives and the guns and archery and things along those lines. So she was extremely supportive. But it wasn't up until maybe my early teen years, just, you know, back in the day, you didn't have all the Instagram, you didn't have YouTubes and all these other things to be able to look at stuff or go shopping. You had to go find a magazine, gun magazines, Firepower magazine, Soldier of Fortune magazine, you know, all these Shotgun News, all that sort of really great stuff. You could really kind of see what was really out there. So it was a smorgasbord of just definitely big stuff. And my first experience with, you know, Class 3 or NFA, you know, came at a very, very young age. I always knew it existed, but I thought it was always totally like illegal to own. You know, I remember seeing some of the really clever ads back in Shotgun News. You could buy a Rock Island fully transferable M60 back in the day. I think it was $1,800 US back in the day, and that was a little bit before '86. Now, if you go to get an M60 or something along those lines, depending if it's a Rock Island or a Merrimont, you're looking at prices anywhere from, this is conservative, 80,000 all the way up to about 120 is what I've been seeing as of late. This particular one on the table is a Merrimont, and it's in pristine condition. It was overhauled by my buddy Robert Wesley at Desert Ordnance, and his family do unbelievable work with these guns. So it is now in what's called a E6 configuration, which is my absolute favorite. And this gun runs like a top, and it's topped off with a Spectre Elcan 1.5 to 6, and it's about as good as it gets. But one of my favorite guns, and it is actually, in fact, the M60 was my first experience shooting my first belt fed, and also goes for the MP5 SD that's on the table. This is a HK MP5 SD-A3, and it's not a conversion. Neither of these guns are. This is an original registered receiver gun. And like I said, it was the first machine gun that I shot as a kid. I was 18 years of age when I shot this. The collection, I got an opportunity. It was a neat experience. So, you know, me and my wife at the time, we used to go to Walmart to go shopping, and she'd go looking at some bullshit, and I'd be like, baby, I'm gonna go be in the sporting goods section, whatever that meant, and go look at shotgun shells, 22s, and bullshit gun scrubber, stuff like that I needed for supplies. And so I see this fucking guy walking around back there looking at something, and he's got a shirt. I actually have the shirt, and I'll show it to you. My buddies down in Florida remade this Fleming's Firearm shirt, but it had on a Fleming Firearm shirt, and I was like, machine guns? I was like, dude, those are illegal. And he turns around, he's got like that shitty Jersey accent. He's like, contraire, mon frere, you know, blah, 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 blah. You know, you're full of shit because machine guns are not illegal. They're legal to own, and I could show you how. It's like, dude, that is just absolutely crazy. So we got into a conversation with this guy, Joe Livio. He was like a captain or a chief captain of the Tarpon Springs Fire Department, but he had that machine gun shirt, you know, from Fleming Firearms, and what got it all started. And he's like, dude, if you ever want to shoot a machine gun, I got you. Here's my number. Give me a call. We'll go shoot. And I was like, oh my God, So I actually have the photo that he took of me, and it's a picture of me in his living room holding this model of this gun, MP5A3 with the pictogram lower, the whole ball of wax, and it was an addiction from there. You know, as of today, you know, I think the gun collection that I have is probably not the biggest out of the ones that I have bought and sold, but this one's probably the most well-rounded as far as my personality. So you'll get a chance to see, you know, of course, you know, I went and I shot the SD was the first one, Uzi, Thompson's, whatever, M60, A1, not an E6 at the time, but an A1, like the Vietnam style, as they call it, the Rambo gun. But, and it was an addiction. And then from there, just getting to know Joe and getting to know people in that Class 3 industry side, I started taking on work. We're finishing HKs, doing some light conversions. Didn't do it myself. I did it through other gun shops in the area because I wasn't old enough to even have an FFL, so I had to do them through these gun shops. But that's where I picked up a tremendous amount of machinery tech. I did all different types of work at that point, but I learned from some great gunsmiths and some very, very good mentors on top of it, and was able to put that to, you know, to good use. Even though the gun stuff didn't pay me as good as the knives, but it transitioned over to the knives at a very, very early time. But these are the first ones, and they're still my absolute favorites. Very few guns that have the iconic persona that the MP5 does, even though the technology's from the 60s. This is iconic. You all know what it is. Are you getting hungry yet? Steak's been resting now for about 14 minutes. We still have a little bit longer to go. I'm gonna go ahead and flip them over. Letting them rest lets the inner core acclimate just a little bit better. Like I said, if the core temperature of the meat doesn't acclimate, you're gonna cook the meat too quickly. You're trying to get a sear with maintaining a uniform texture throughout. So the resting, whether you're doing any temperature of steak, you should be able to do the resting. Of course, the char time in between, let's say if you're going for like a well done or a medium, I don't even know who the fuck would even eat a fucking well done steak. Nobody should ever do that, okay? So don't, you know, you cook your meat however you're gonna wanna do it, but I don't recommend it. Who eats a well done steak? You know, anyway, it's like eating a piece of frickin' shoe leather, man. Anyway, you want to get a uniform core temperature all the way through so that it's more uniform rather than just seeing, you know, a 1/4 inch of just like burnt meat, and then a little bit of a strip in the middle. You know, there's no quick way to cook a steak other than the fact that if you just want it just completely rare on the inside, flash it for, you know, as hot as you can for 60 seconds on either side and call it a day. But it all depends on your preference of what you like. Kids, this is important. This is a live story. When I worked at Knight's Armament when I was a kid, I had another friend of mine. His name was Rodney Morton. He worked in the welding department. Rodney got a piece of, he was the master griller, smoker, whatever. I called him Bubba. We still talk from time to time. Rodney used a grill brush that had the metal shards, the metal bristles in it. He got one stuck in his esophagus and he had to have surgery. Don't screw around. Use a grill brush that uses like a bamboo. The bamboo, if you ingest it, you're gonna shit it out. You put it on the grill, it's gonna burn off. A piece of metal, do not use grill brushes that are metal. I implore you, for your safety and your family's safety. This particular one is from Green Egg, and you could replace the heads in a hurry. But it is not worth getting a piece of metal stuck in your throats or otherwise from a family member. So always remember that I don't care how you cook your meat, use a grill brush, use something with a bamboo bristle head. At this point, I'm not going to reuse the thongs, or the pinchers as they call them, or the pan itself. So if someone would be kind enough to bring me a damn pan and some frickin' Reynolds wrap. Super hot grill, boys and girls. Done. I'm gonna give the Napoleon grill a 10 out of 10 for freaking blazing hotness. You could have definitely forged some fucking blades in this thing tonight. Maybe we'll do that next time. But here you go, kids. That's 3 minutes aside or less. A resting time of about 20 minutes on these particular pieces. Should be nice and pink throughout with a beautiful, beautiful char on the outside. And again, you could go back, you could do a little bit, in the way of seasoning. If I order A1 at a restaurant, you could fucking know that Tony Marfione is extremely disappointed with what just came out on the plate, because it's not gonna fly at that point in stage of the game. So one of the games we used to play at the bar, at the kitchen, is how long you could spin this top. See how long that'll go for. Nevertheless, go ahead and grab one of these meats. How nice that is, uniform all the way across the board. I'm gonna say it probably hit a little bit of towards the medium side, but nevertheless extremely tender. I don't have my English fork, so sorry. Let's taste this thing. Now that's a good piece of meat. That's excellent. Bon appetit. I hope that you folks have enjoyed this episode of Blade and Board of Cooking a Steak. And again, like, share, and subscribe. If you'd like to see certain things, we're going to get into some things in depth. So whether it be the firearms or the pocket knives, and again, I adore all pocket knives of all shapes, forms, and manufacture. I have a couple that I'd love to share with you down the line. So, but today, hope you've enjoyed, and buon appetito.